next thing we need to do, now that we got capital guys set up, we got our EIN number, right? The next thing we got to do before we can go open up a bank account, right, to fund our new organization, is we've got to have what's called an operating agreement. And an operating agreement, the way to think of it is, it's the rules of how the owners are going to do business. So how are they going to split profits? How are they going to take losses for tax purposes? When do they make a decision to sell the company? How's the accounting going to be done? So it's just, think of it as a rule book of how you're going to conduct yourself within that corporation. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to show you what that looks like, Mike. I have a template that I should be able to pull up here of an operating agreement. And by the way, to our audience, you'll have an opportunity to actually be able to sign up to receive a template of an operating agreement. One recommendation I would make if you decide to do that is obviously talk to whoever's your trusted advisor, whatever, when you finish tailoring it to the way you want it to be, just to make sure that it's done correctly. But I want to show you what that looks like. I have an operating agreement template, and here we go. I'm going to pull this up. Let me just expand it so folks can see it. But this is for a Delaware corporation. Now you might be wondering, why did I pick Delaware? Why wouldn't I pick California or Nevada?
Yeah, especially because in the prior video you did click California while filling out.
Well, I said where the company is going to be, but the next line asked where was I going to file my articles.
Gotcha.
And I put Delaware.
Okay.
But you could certainly do it in Nevada, Wyoming. Each jurisdiction has their own different corporate rules. The reason I like Delaware is Delaware probably has the most corporate friendly state in the country. More than 90% of all companies in the United States are incorporated in Delaware. Yeah, and in fact, and so what that means is that there's really a lot of good corporate law that's been developed in Delaware. It's like if you're going to do a private placement for raising capital, which we'll talk about in another series, almost always the investor requests that you be incorporated in Delaware. Okay, so we got a basic operating agreement here, right, that we can see, and it's just saying, here's the name of it, and we put in, in this case, capital guys, right? And it's a limited liability company, and you can see where it was formed, state of Delaware. Right, and here's the agreement, and one of the things you'll see anytime you look at any agreements when you're doing business, including an operating agreement, a lot of times they'll define terms so that you understand when they say accountant or they say capital account or an affiliate, this is what it means. So these are really just nothing more than definitions, and half of this agreement will go over all those different definitions. Then you'll get into general provisions. So this is really kind of what we're about, right? Kind of company that we're organized as, the name of our company, what business we're in, and you can expand or contract this as you see fit. Where your place of business is, how long your company is going to be around. Maybe you only want it around for 5 years or 10 years, and then you want to wind it up.
Now, why would somebody want that defined prior?
They might be using the corporation to hold an asset that they want it to terminate, meaning the asset be liquidated within a certain time frame. So for example, maybe you're doing a real estate project and you're telling your investors, we will wind up in 7 years. So you might say, I want this corporation wound up in 8 or 9 years.
Right.
So it's just kind of giving a final date. And again, these things that you put down, they're a starting point. You can always amend with a majority of the members. And then, it's going to talk about, property, names of the members. So typically you put it in a schedule. Talks about distributions, how you're going to distribute your profits. In this case, this particular agreement assumes that there's two different classes of units. So you have an A unit and a B unit. And again, I'm not going to get into all of that on this presentation, but you might, an example of that might be your A units are voting units and your B units only have an economic interest, okay? No voting rights. And so it's just going to keep going through all of this stuff, right? Capital contributions, profit and losses, when people have to put in capital if there's a capital call, all those kind of things, right? And again, you're going to want to look at this, read it, understand it. And one thing I recommend, and I've seen this, Mike, over the years, people will get into this operating agreement and they'll get it from, you know, an online service or whatever. They don't read it. They sign it and they think they're done.
Yeah.
And then later on, they go to do a transaction, they go to sell, they go to do a financing, and the operating agreement actually gets in the way. So it's very important that you think through what you're doing with the company from an organizational perspective, and it's the operating agreement that's going to help you do that. And once you have these three elements that we've discussed today, right? Got my corporate name, could be in Delaware, could be in another state. I've got my EIN number from the IRS, and then I have this operating agreement with these three documents. I'm now ready to open up a bank account. I'm now ready to raise funds if I want to, right? And we'll get into that in a different session. But these are the foundational blocks to beginning your company.
So the capital guys are up and running.
We're up and running. We can open up a bank account now. We can take money in. We can issue new member units, etc. And we'll get into discussing how you go about raising money in a double LC in another episode. But if you'd like to get a copy of this operating agreement, absolutely free. There'll be a sign up for you. Sign up and follow us at Growers and Showers, and we'll get this out to you. And then if you have any questions on what we've discussed today, feel free to go to our channel, leave us a message, public or private, and we'll do our best to answer those questions in our next session. So Mike, I hope that was helpful for you. Actually, it was helpful for me just to do a refresher.
Yeah, it was a nice refresh, good review. We hope we helped you guys out.
Yeah. So just remember, it's all about growing and it's all about showing. Bam!